No.
Awesome. This is so simple. And I'm telling you, anyone can do it. And when you see what you can do with just really simple ingredients that you can find in your kitchen,
Yeah.
Batiste, and you can call me D. And I don't know if you read my bio or not, but I've been soap making for over 20 years. And the way that I came into soap making actually was out of necessity because I had suffered lifelong skincare problems to the point of having to be taken to the doctor, the emergency room from hives and itching, being brought home from school, all sorts of things, and even into my adulthood. And my last visit to the dermatologist, trying to get a handle on it and give me something that I could, live with. And it ended up being the problem with a lot of my skin reactions were my soaps, skincare products. So he took me off of all commercial soaps. The only thing that I could use was unscented shaving cream.
Hmm.
And while it
Wow.
did, my mom too also suffered from psoriasis and eczema. So does my too also suffered from psoriasis and eczema. So does my children. And so I think it's a genetic thing. Mom too also suffered from psoriasis and eczema. So does my children. And so I think it's a genetic thing. But when after doing it, I was really glad to be relieved and not be suffering, scratching, itching, like almost from the inside out. I love bathing. And so I was like, okay, how long do I have to do this? And he said, forever. And that just wasn't a good answer for me. So it started me on the quest to learn, first of all, about skin. And one of the first things that I learned was that our skin is an organ. It's actually the largest organ of our body. So anything that we put on it is absorbed into our skin. And when we think about it in those terms, then it makes us think about, the products and things that we're using on our skin. So after learning about skin, the things that were good and not good for us generally are not true soaps, they're detergents. Synthetic are not true soaps, they're detergents, synthetically produced. So when I realized that, I was like, okay, how can I produce some real soap? Because real soap, by its very nature, has glycerin in it and is moisturizing to the skin. So I went on a search, started finding people who were making it, and I'm going to date myself a little bit. I don't know if any of you are old enough to recall AOL. Well, I was on AOL, and do you remember the boards on AOL? I found a soap making board, and I landed in heaven. I made friends with a lot of people and started learning about the art of soap making, just started studying it. And then, eventually started selling products myself. I was featured on Talk of the Town. I got a partner. I was carried on QVC for a short minute. I wasn't one of those products that stuck, but like I said, I just fell in love with it, and it's my passion. And today, I hope that I can share a little bit of my passion with you, but also in sharing something that I think is really, really fun. I do want to stress and help you to understand that it can be really, really great for your skin and for your family to, if you don't make your own natural products, at least to try to get them for your family to use. And a lot of them are really super simple and easy to make. And the first one we're going to make today is actually what they call shower jellies or bath jellies. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Lush store, but Lush actually, it's a bath store, kind of like, it's not, I don't think it's here in Tennessee, but in a lot of states and around the world, they're a global company, but it's kind of like Bath and Body Works. And they sell a lot of really, really cool products and things. But this product is one that they sell in their store. And so we're going to make some bath jellies. And I want to make sure that you have all the supplies that you need. So we're going to jump right in here, get this done. Then I want to give you a chance to ask me some questions, and then we're going to start our melt and pour soap, okay? Not new to soap making, but new to Zoom. And I had a great little PowerPoint presentation to show you, but I cannot get it shown through the Zoom screen. But I will send that to you, and I'll send you this recipe because it's super easy, and a recording of our class that I think will be available after we finish. So to get started, let's go over our ingredients. For the bath jellies, you're going to need some gelatin. And Knox gelatin is one that a lot of people use, but it doesn't have to be Knox. It just needs to be a gelatin. I've even used the beef gelatin before. And you're going to need some salt. Now, my container says sea salt, but it's just because it's a reusable container. This is just regular old cheap salt, and that's all you need. And then some liquid soap. I'm not drinking while I'm telling you this, but this is my handmade liquid soap. This soap is made from scratch as well. So I just keep it in my bottle here because it's easy for me to pour. And the first thing that we're in water. And usually I want to let you know that in soap making or any kind of bath products, you're going to want to use distilled water most of the time. In this project, we won't have to use distilled water because we're going to be boiling our water. And you can stick it in the microwave for, a minute, or you can put it on the stove. I think I have some already heated over here, so I'm going to grab my water. Can everybody get your water ready? And we're going to pour it into, you're going to need a bowl or a mixing container, something that's larger than, like I say, a cup, a mixing bowl or cup that's larger, like a 2-cup size, something like that. What I need, so I'm just going to add a little more and zap it in my microwave here. More boiled out than I intended to while I was trying to prep. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the boiling water to our bowl, and then we're going to pour the gelatin and the salt in, and we're going to stir. And you need something, I think a whisk works well, but a spoon, anything of that sort will work as well. All right. So in goes the water. I hope you all can see me. Let me know if you can't, and stop me and ask questions if you need to. So the next thing we're going to put in, I got something on that. The next thing we're going to put in is the gelatin. And what we need to do is just pour it in kind of slowly, stir the water while you're pouring it in. That helps it kind of to dissolve better. And also another note, if you use a different type of gelatin, read the instructions on your gelatin, because I used the beef gelatin once, and the water did not have to be heated. And in that instance, I used distilled water. So I'm just stirring here, and you can see we're just going to stir until it's dissolved. And now I'm going to pour the salt in, and we're going to do the same thing. Still with me? Give you a little indication here of what the ingredients do. The salt helps to keep the jellies hard. And in other types of soap making, like there's cold process soap making, that's like the best, the original, or it's a lot of steps involved. You can use salt to help harden your soap because some oils won't harden that much. So we're going to keep stirring. And now, if all of your gelatin is dissolved, we're going to add our liquid soap, and we're going to add a half a cup of that. And you will see once we start adding the liquid soap, it'll start to thicken a little. And so you need to have your colorants and your fragrance if you're going to add any nearby. So here we go. And this is as easy as making Jell-O. You know, but gelatin is something, it's really good for our bones and also our skin. So it's really a great product for the skin. Some people use gelatin in their smoothies and things to get those supplements into their diet. So mine, I think it's pretty thick here. I don't know if you can tell, but it's, you know, a little soupy, but not quite thick. And another thing to keep in mind, now we're going to add some fragrance. And today I'm going to use orange creamsicle. And fragrance, like most things, is to your desire. And I will tell you this, in a lot of soap making, some fragrances, it takes a lot more to break through the product, but with jelly soaps, you don't need a lot. And you're going to still smell a little bit of that kind of soap until it hardens, and then that smell, the fragrance will take over. So now that we have our fragrance in, we're going to add colorants if you want. And so I'm going to add a little orange here. It's just like coloring. Sometimes you can use food coloring. Of course, you can order colorants off of Amazon that are, just make sure they're skin safe, and there are tons of them on there. So you're going to make sure that anything that you add to this is skin safe, the fragrance as well. And my rule is if you can add something to food, then you can add it to your bath product. So if you wanted to put a little vanilla extract in here, you could. And it would give you that vanilla smell, and it would be fine on your skin. So I think I'm going to add just a little red to brighten that orange a little. So here we go. Now we've got everything in here. See how long that took us? And then the last thing is just pouring it into your molds. And these are silicone molds that I'm using. You can find these in like the baking section, the cake decorating section of Walmart or grocery stores, where you're going to find like food decorating things. So you can find molds like this, and you can use an old ice tray. You can find a lot of silicone molds for ice trays now, and the silicone molds work really well for most any soap that you're using. So we're going to just pour these into the mold. And you want to keep, with the bath jellies, you want to keep the mold, kind of small, because these are designed to be kind of individual use, like in the shower or, you know, washing your hands or something. They're not designed to last. And that's why you want really small molds with small cavities. So if you're using an ice tray, don't fill it up all the way, I would say. You really don't want them that big, but it will work. And you can cut them too afterwards. I've done that before too. Getting a little messy with my pouring while I talk.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have any questions so far? Not, but you're going to need 2 tablespoons of gelatin and 1 teaspoon of salt. I did say the water though, 3/4 cup of water is like, they will say 2 packs of gelatin or a pack of gelatin. And I Googled it from the Knox company, and they're, you know, when you buy them in those boxes, those are little packs. Recipe is calling for a tablespoon, use a packet, or if it's calling for 2 tablespoons, use 2 packets. So I just basically equate 1 packet with a tablespoon.
Gotcha.
Like Jell-O, you're gonna sit it in the fridge and let them harden anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. And I will tell you that, like I said, before I actually tried my own, I saw several recipes and I tried a couple. And that's what you're going to have to do when you're, you know, doing DIY kinds of things. You have to try things for yourself, and you have to try different resources because a couple of things can be a factor in the outcome of your bath jellies. One is if it's hot and humid, they may not set up as well, or they may have a tendency to want to melt after you take them out. And that's the reason for the salt. I have made them without, but if you make them without, it'll set up like Jell-O. But if you leave it sitting out for a minute, it's going to start to melt back down. You know, but like you can cool it. But you want to keep them in a kind of a cool, dry place. I haven't tried it, but I was thinking about upping the salt. I don't know. You have to, just like with cooking, sometimes you experiment, but you have to be careful because sometimes the ratios of certain things are really critical. And I would be willing to, if I was having trouble with the soap staying hard, I wouldn't be afraid of adding maybe another half a teaspoon of salt to see if that helped. And also, from my experiments, I also realized that, like when I made the gelatin, the beef gelatin one, it had to stay in the fridge longer. It took, I took it out at the same time, but it wasn't quite as firm. So I ended up leaving it in there. So I say if you leave it in there like 4 hours or overnight even, the harder you let it, the longer you let it set up, and I think the better they turn out. And I usually always put mine on like a little baking dish or something, because, kind of like gel. So it makes it easy to, kind of move around after you get it poured up. So I'm going to stuff these in the fridge right now, and I'm going to pull out some that I made yesterday so you can see them. Look, it's really cute and nice when they're nice and firm. You see those? And these, like I said, I just put them back in the fridge, but after I made them yesterday really early, I took them out after 4 hours and they were fine. I do, because she loves fragrances, and I would just be super careful about the fragrances that you use. Go down and look at the reviews of a product, because people will let you know. And if it's something that I want to use for soap making or for other skincare products, I look for comments about that, so people, because they're good and they're very useful and helpful. And another thing that you want to keep in mind, like if you are someone who's going to actually get into more soap making and things, fragrance is also something that once it's added to the soap, depending on the chemical makeup of the fragrance, it can cause your soap to what's called trace faster, which means harden faster. So you may have to, if you're doing what's called cold process soap making, you might have to pour it in a mold faster. You might not have a chance to get all fancy with your colors and those kinds of things. So that's just something to remember along your soap making journey. So now we've done that. The next thing we're going to do is melt and pour. And with melt and pour, like I said, I make my own And you can buy these in almost any craft store or online. And usually they're sold in blocks like this. Like this one, I don't know if you can see the difference. This one is a kind of a clear or translucent one that I made. It's like it's 1.5 pounds. And this one is white. And the reason that it's white is because I add titanium dioxide to it, because there are certain things that I like that white base to add color and do certain projects and things with. And you will find all sorts of bases for sale. I will give you off the top of my head a couple of resources. I will be selling them on my website, but also Brambleberry is a very, very good resource for almost anything that you need skincare related. And they've been around for a very, very long time. When I started, some of these people, like she was new in the soap board. I've seen her company grow. Another one is called TKB Trading. And Kyla and I started out on the soap making board, and she has a wonderful company now. She sells, her specialty is micas and colorants, and she's very, very diligent about making sure they're quality and that they're good and safe for your skin. She also now, I just noticed, is selling like bases for lip gloss and other things along with the colorants and stuff. So TKB Trading, very reputable. And like I said, I know they represent good quality products. So this is, I'm sorry, something just popped up on my screen here. That I made up last. This is one of the soaps that I made up last night. I was just trying to really see it, play around that I made from to see. And that's what the great thing about Melt and Pour is you can use so many little variations of color in there and use so many different. How I got that was and I started and like I said, because I do so many things, I try not to waste my soap. And this was a soap that I tried. I didn't like the texture, so I didn't want to sell it as a bar, so I grated it up. This is one that I made. Let me take this grater. Like I said, most of the things you can use in soap making are things that you're going to use in cooking. This soap, what I will say is, like if you get into from the cold process soap making or other things, is I would have separate equipment that I use for my several colors, and they have a different sort of. I have a crock pot. Now this soap is one that I made, and it will etch your, your container and those kinds of things. The hot process method. But what I did, there's so many types of soap making. Like I said, you can fall in love with soap making. That I did. This one is. And there are lots of things you can do with soap that doesn't actually turn out right. And the difference kind of is this, or the way you want it. With hot processing, it basically speeds the entire process up. Product processing and this is a mold that I got off is a process where you mix your oils and your lye, and all soap has lye. It's not left in the product, you can find it takes the lye mixed with the oils. And I like those because this is what allows you to, chemical reaction. These kinds to slice is called saponification. When you're doing a lot of decorative and when things, that chemical reaction takes with Melt and Pour, it leaves a mold. 3 molecules. What you decorate, and 2 of those are soap, and 1 is glycerin. That's why I say natural soap has glycerin in it already. And in the really comes out when you soap making process, kind of like a cinnamon they extract those kinds of most of the glycerin out because glycerin is used in so many other industries and things. And they have another way of adding to their profits, so they sell it that way. And they also sell glycerin bars as premium bars, when if they just left it in there, it'd already be a nice premium bar. So I wanted to show a little bit into cubes, and the reason for that is so that you can melt it I don't know if we can and evenly. See, that really did, but these are just samples. just pop you out a few cubes and then into your microwavable cup.
Okay.
Burst, because you never know when you get familiar with the product and you're using it all the time, you'll know. But until you do, 30 seconds is safe, because I'm going to do some in the tray. So, and this is, I like these trays because these ice trays have kind of like that little silicone bottom, which, helps it pop out easy. So that'd be a cool thing if you're going to use them for your soap. So let's stick this into the microwave. And like I said, go for like 30-second spurts until you see that it should liquefy totally. And another reason is because different soaps have different things in them, which cause some to melt quicker than others. Also, the length of time that the soap has been curing, and what that is like after soap is made, that's one of the difference between cold processed soap and hot process and melt and pour. Cold processed soap, once it's made, it takes basically 24 hours before you can even take it out of the mold. And then after you take it out of the mold, usually it's recommended that you let it cure for at least 2 weeks, and it's even better after 6 weeks. And what that does is actually the process is still going on. Those oils are still blending, the fragrances and all of those things. And every oil has different qualities that it lends to soap. Like coconut is a great soap if you want big bubbly lathers. Olive oil is a great soap for your skin, but it doesn't produce a lot of lathers, and it's going to have some people will call it a slimy feel, but it's more of a moisturizing, more of a silk kind of like feel to it. There are, let me see, you can actually use shortening, which basically is a soybean oil. You can use basically almost any oil that you want in cold processed soap making. The difference is that remember I talked about how the lye combines with the oil and it creates a chemical reaction to produce those molecules of soap and glycerin. Well, the way that happens is every oil has a chemical makeup. And in order for that, you have to have so much lye for that chemical process to take place. So each oil has what in soap making they call it a sap value, or which is short for saponification, which tells you how much lye you need to make this oil turn to soap. And there are all sorts of sap charts out there. SoapCal is one. Just look for soap calculator, soap lye calculator. There are a ton that you can use on the web. You can even download them on your phone. I have SoapCal downloaded. And in those particular apps, and again, I was around when people were just starting to create them, because I used to calculate this by hand with the calculator and most soap makers have a big recipe book, and it includes a lot of figures and numbers because you're calculating those sap values. So it would, like I said, you would want to know what your sap value is when you are using any oil and soap, and when you're combining them. Of course, those soap calculators will help you do all of that in one fell swoop. All you got to do is plug in what you want to use, and they'll tell you how much lye you want to use, how much water you need to use. And so is everybody's soap melted?
Yeah.
So I didn't get a list of ingredients, and so we're just observing.
Okay, well, this is going to be, like I said, I'm going to have the video for the recording for this ready for you. And also, I would suggest to you 2 of my favorite places, Pinterest. I love Pinterest. You can go on there. I love Pinterest. You can go on there, look for all kinds of DIY skincare products. But again, keep in mind what I told you before. Just because it's on there doesn't mean it always works. So you want to look at people's replies, you know, see, I usually, when I'm looking for a soap or bath product recipe, if I find it off of Pinterest, I don't just copy what you see there. Most of them have a site you can visit. So I visit their site. I look at their site. I just try to make sure that this person knows what they're talking about. And the same thing on YouTube, because anybody can make a YouTube video. But I know when someone knows what they're talking about, and I can suggest a couple of YouTube channels. When I send out this information to you, I will send out a couple of YouTube channels for you to watch and learn about different types of soap making. And these are from people that I know what they're doing, have been in the industry a long time, and people that you can learn a lot from. And Bambooberry they do have a YouTube channel. And one I know off the top of my head, Sunshine Soap and Candle. She's a very good instructor. And I think MO Soap, I think stands for Missouri Soap. She's been around a long time. She was on our soap making board. These gals know how to make soap, and they're good instructors. I love watching their YouTube videos, and my granddaughter watches them with me. She likes it too. So is everybody ready? You ready, Kat? Okay. Well, now we've got it melted. We're going to add a little, I'm going to add a little fragrance. Sorry, but I need new glasses, so I'm having to use like 2 or 3 different pair for the computer and the different, but I'm not going out to get an exam right now.
Right.
All right, doing this, make, you know, a business, a little home business, or just for gifts. Like I said, I started out as for myself, then I started making gifts, then people started wanting to buy it, and it just kind of grew from there. Like I said, it is something, if you use it for nothing more than just your family and yourself, I think this is great. So fragrance, of course, is optional to, you know, add it to your desire. And then, it's purple. Add some colorants if you'd like. Again, make sure that these are all skin safe things. And a lot of people do use food coloring, and sometimes I think it will work just fine in melt and pour, but in other types of soap, it may not hold up. It may not, like in cold process, because that's such a heavy chemical process. Food coloring is not going to come out in your end product. So I suggest if you want some really nice colors that you get some mica, or some candle soaps will work. But again, I would be very cautious with that. I would only do it from like a candle supplier that also supplies things for skincare products, because some of them can be used for both. But candle fragrance can't always be used for soap, and you need to know that. I'm sorry?
I like Whitley's color.
Yeah.
What do you got? Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
Mine is kind of milky purple, because this was like a white base that I used, because I want it kind of pasty and pale. Her color is going to be so beautiful and translucent. That's gorgeous.
Thank you.
All right. So now that you have your coloring in, everyone have their mold ready, and you're just going to just pour it into the mold. And you can also add different things, ingredients to your melt and pour. Like this is a little chamomile that I have here. And I'm just going to add a little chamomile to this. You just sprinkle it in. Again, when you're adding anything, like you can add lavender, like real lavender flowers. You could add clays, like skin safe clays, like bentonite, cannelin, pink clay. And these again are all things you can find on Amazon or from any soap making supply house. When you add clay to your soap, it really gives it a nice silky feel, and it's good for your skin. When I'm making a bar, I make a bar for my daughter. It's got seaweed and clay in it for acne and cleansing, and it works really well. And it's very healing. So I am just going to sprinkle a little.
What?
Randy's making soap.
Yeah, yeah.
So to get some extra color and pizzazz, and you're doing so great. Is it Kyla or Whitney? Whitney. Whitley. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
If you have two measuring cups, if you want to mix two colors, get a marble effect, use two separate measuring cups. I'm going to show you how to do that right now.
Okay. Do you want to do that now?
That is beautiful.
yeah.
I'm just going to do a couple in here just so you can kind of see how it works. And what you do is, like, if you want swirls, you want to wait until the soap cools down and it's thicker, because you can work with it. You can swirl it. You can use popsicle sticks and those types of things and layer it. But it's real, like I said, it has to be kind of thick, almost like pudding. Because if it's not, it just runs together and it's just going to melt like, watercolors almost, basically, which could, turn out being really nice too. But if you want those colors distinct, you want your soaps to be kind of thick. And I got these a little too hot. So I'm going to add a little bit to this one, and it'll thicken up. And then another thing about melt support, you can pop it. I'm going to pop this in the freezer for just a quick second to let it cool. And these little, when you're doing things like that, when you're trying to get colors and swirls, these little measuring cups like this that have the elongated spout on it are perfect. In fact, that's really what you kind of want when you're doing that kind of stuff, because you want that flow and the control. So I'm gonna try adding some new micas that I got in from TK. So I'm gonna try this little gold one. Got my scoop, but you have to be real careful with these micas. Little bit goes a long way, and if you spill it, it also goes a long way all over things. So, oh, and one thing that I forgot, you want to keep a little spray bottle. This is what I use, of alcohol on hand. And I forgot to tell you when we did that with the jelly soap. But sometimes when you're doing these things, you're mixing stuff, you get a lot of bubbles stirred up, and you really don't want those to mold that way. You want to keep all of those things out if you can. Once you pour your soap into the mold, all you have to do is spritz a little alcohol over the top, and it will disperse the bubbles. And that works for all soaps, and all soap makers use that trick. And a spray bottle on hand. And alcohol is the only thing that I know that does it. I don't know of anything else. Does anyone have any questions so far? I hope this has been useful. Okay. Did you have a question? What's your question?
No.
Oh, hang on one second. Reviews and things. This is one of the soap books, one of the first ones that I bought. It's a really, really small book, and it's super easy, surefire recipes. Sandy Main is the author. And I mean, this lady stands in a class all of her own. She and all soap makers look up to her. But she did this really, really, this book is over 20 years old. It's really small, it's really easy. You want to learn and get a little bit more in depth with it, understand the history of soap making. This one by Anne Bromson. Again, all of these I had like 20 years ago. Super easy. And this one will educate you on like the chemistry, the process, and the history of soap. Really quick and easy. This one, Elaine White. Whitley, you might want to get this one. I don't even, I have to check and see if this is it. It is so cute, and it has like, I think it has over 100 recipes in it, but it's so easy. I don't know if you can see that, but you see the pages. She gives you like tons of different recipes, and these are all things you can find in your kitchen. And she makes it, you know, she makes them simple on purpose, because it really is. But sometimes people can be a little intimidated by the process. And my fourth old book is called, and I'll have to spell that, Cabitch. And it's The Natural Soap Book, Making Herbal and Vegetable-Based Soaps. These are all easy reads, and like I said, from people who are very knowledgeable about it. And in Susan's book, this is where you can start to get a good education about the different oils, about the scents.
What's a vegetable-based soap? Like, what are some of them?
Olive oil. If something has olive oil, like tallow, you can make, tallow is like beef fat or lard. You can make, it makes great soap. That's what, you know, the pioneers used to use. But, you know, everybody now, you know, has different, you know, ideology about certain things, being vegan and that kind of stuff. So it's important to know that, because especially if you're trying to sell something, you want to be able to tell them that, and you want to know. So that's, and her soaps are all with oils, like vegetable-based oils. So she doesn't use any tallow in hers. And this book, because it's an older book, and like I said, this lady goes way back, she uses a lot of tallow and different things. But again, all of them use things that you can find in your kitchen or in the grocery store. And they're very educational. That's what I like about most of them. They're going to give you some background plus some surefire recipes and make you a knowledgeable soap maker. And this one I picked up. This is a guy written by a guy who owns a local shop here. And I used to go into his shop and stuff all the time just to chat with him, buy oils and different things. He sells lots of other things. It was like, it's a complete place. It has, you know, massage, spa and some other things. So going to get my massages, I would wander around in there. And I supported him by buying. And I too have a soap making book on Amazon called Soap Making Yourself for a Modern Soap Maker. I'm not going to brag on mine, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I wrote that when I was caregiving for my mom. We spent a lot of time. She she's dead. But we spent a lot of time in the hospital and in facilities, and I was just on my computer a lot, missing being able to make soap and things. So I started writing this book. And I, tell people about how I came to soap making, and I give you 3 basic types of soap making, like the cold process. I teach you how to make whipped soap, which I would like to have another class and teach you how to do that, because that's also a cold soap making process, but it's one where you use a blender or a mixer and you whip it just like you're doing frosting or something. You can put it in a frosting bag and do all sorts of neat things with it. And it's also wonderful. So you can find my book on Amazon as well. So I think my soaps are,
That's problem. So, for the melt and pour soaps, how long do they need to sit?
you can just kind of visually look at them and tell, you can pop them in the fridge and speed the process up if you want, but usually, 2 to 4 hours. And again, that may depend also on how warm the soap was when you poured it. And that's a cool thing about melt and pour, because like, if you don't like how it turns out, guess what? You can melt it again. So now I think, okay, that one almost got too cool. Got to talking and left it in the freezer too long. So I'm just gonna zap this. Okay. You can see the consistency of this one is, so this is kind of like a pudding consistency is what I'm kind of going for. Now I've melted and hardened them. Not exactly, but I want you to get the idea of how to do this. So I have 2 colors here, and you're going to be pouring them kind of at the same time. All right, I'm going to bring this camera down a little bit, see if it gives you a little better view. So what you're going to do is kind of basically pour them at the same time and kind of swirl them around each other. Like that one's not even pouring, it's too solid. So what you basically are doing is just kind of pouring them at the same time. And the long spouts help you to kind of like swirl actually as you're pouring. And the thicker it is, the better you can swirl. And another way of doing that is basically to pour a layer at a time. Let one gel up a little bit. You might pour the next layer a little warm, and you can use, you see what I'm using here? Chopsticks. And soap makers all use the chopsticks, popsicle sticks, and then once it's in the mold, you can use it to swirl and put a design in there. And one quick tip, just a creative tip, even like with melt and pour, you could even get, like, if you wanted to have like a honeycomb effect on the top of it, you could actually get some bubble wrap and put it in a mold, like a loaf pan or something like this. Put you some bubble wrap in there so the bubbles are up, and get your soap kind of cool, and then pour it over that bubble, and it will leave that indentation in there. So it's just all sorts of cute, neat little ideas and things that you can do. And like I said, visit Pinterest, YouTube, and you can just even Google, because now, all sorts of sites and things will come up. If you just Google questions about soap making, generally there's probably going to be a YouTube video or something in there. And like I said, when you're trying a recipe, 9 times out of 10, the YouTube recipes will be small batches, but if they're not, you can reduce the size of a recipe just halving everything. You want to do it another spot, just half it again. Say if somebody gave you a 16-ounce recipe, you just do everything in half, and you can do an 8-ounce recipe. Do everything in half again, you can do a 4-ounce. And that's what I do sometimes when I don't want to waste a lot of oils and things on something I'm not certain about. Try a small batch. But also keep in mind, with certain types of soap making, like cold process, for instance, it will be a little different in a small batch as opposed to a large batch, because with cold processing, as I said, this process is taking place like the first 24 hours. You will feel the mold. It's hot, and so that heat is still being generated within the soap. Those are just things that, you have to, like I said, keep in mind when you're doing things like that. If you're doing it in a small mold, it will cure and harden faster, but the texture may be a little different in a smaller mold as opposed to a big loaf, because all that heat is being held in that big loaf. And neither one of them are wrong or right. It's just a preference of what you want, what you like, what's easier for you, what you're comfortable with. And I would say soap making is an art that, the sky's the limit. There are so many different areas and ways that you can practice and participate in it. If you would like you can get really in depth. You can stick to the simple stuff. Like I said, melt and pour is probably the easiest, simplest form of soap making that you can do. And once you can, I would say, play around with that for a while. Get creative, learn ideas, different things that you can do with the melt and pour. Some people, that's all they still do, and they've been doing it for years. But after you feel comfortable with that, then, challenge yourself to try something new. Like I said, simple cold processing soap is very easy to make. All you need is like a really a high pot, and same oils. Like a basic Castile soap is basically olive oil. That's all you need, olive oil and some lye and a mold. And with cold processing, because like I said, it sets up overnight, it's a lot of heat involved. You can actually, when I first started making it, there was no Amazon, you had to search for places to find molds and these kinds of things. And some of these mold businesses grew from people from that soap making board needing things that they didn't have and starting to produce them. But we didn't have a lot of, I have a ton of molds and things now. All sorts of, these are some of the cute silicone molds and things that I use, and you can buy those on Amazon. When I'm making cold processed soap, I use loaves. That's what these are called, loaves, like this. But you can use a shoebox, any sturdy cardboard box, but what you want to do is you want to line it. There are 2 things that you can use to line it. I used to use just a good heavy-duty garbage bag. Yes, you heard me. Just get one of the, the ones that they use for the lawn, and just cut it. 1 layer will do. Just lay it in there like you're putting parchment paper in the lining for cake, and just put it in there, and make sure, scoot your corners and things out, and pour your soap in there, and it's going to be fine. In the beginning days when I was making soap, one of the things that they taught us, and I still do kind of out of habit, is I try to keep it in a warm place. If you have a cooler or something like that, you can just set your mold in the cooler, and you might hear some old soap makers say, wrap the blanket around it. And literally we did. We used to just kind of cover it with the blanket or something like that. Now I just kind of put it, I actually have a couple of, the bags that you get in the grocery store now with the foil designed to hold heat and stuff in. I use those. I set my mold in there, and I put a blanket or a rug or something over it, and I just tuck it away out of sight and let it, just let it do its thing for 24 hours. So, that being said, I hope you guys learned a little about soap making. I hope I've shared enough with you to get you excited about the art of soap making. I hope you will visit my page and feel free to subscribe, because I will be doing emails and different things. And I love to teach. I used to teach classes at Joann's years ago in Rivergate. So if you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Just, send me an email. And you'll
They've all got your email and website. Okay.
All right. Well, I've enjoyed it. If you guys don't have any questions, I guess it's about time for us to end, huh?
Great job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Dee. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank all of you for signing up. And like I said, hope you learned some things, and I'd love to continue to help you along your soap making journey. And you're also going to find that if you start to interact with other soap makers, most soap makers have the same attitude. We love to share our skills.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.